In the time it takes me to do the introduction to this episode, 2,400 gallons of water will have spilled out of a spring in France. Most of that water, no one knows where it comes from, and the depths of the spring have never been even close to fully explored. Curious? Well, stick around for episode 325 of Life's Potluck Buffet, The Spring. This is John Paulus, host of Life's Potluck Buffet. If you're enjoying these episodes, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much. And if you have a Brave browser, you can now contribute basic attention tokens to Life's Potluck Buffet with John Paulus on YouTube. Thank you for your support, and thank you, as always, for listening. In the year 700, so the legend goes, on July 13th, very specific, a figure known as Saint Jean de Réaume solved a big public health problem in the local towns in what is now the Yonne district of Burgundy in France. The townsfolk in the area had been plagued by a lack of clean water, and the source of this dirty water, since, well, it would be anachronistic to have a germ theory appear in the legend. So the thing that was infecting this dirty water was this serpent-like thing called a basilisk, which the name goes back into antiquity and means basically little king. Sometimes people translate little prince, but you get the point. So Saint Jean de Réaume digs out the spring and removes the basilisk and becomes a hero. And that's the main one of the main legends around the spring. The spring is in a town named Tonnerre, which is southwest of Paris and northeast of Dijon in Burgundy. Famous for its wines and famous for being the name of a color which is named after wine from Burgundy made with Pinot Noir grapes. And this is where a bit of the stuff I was talking about in the Niagara Falls episode comes in, because the geography of this part of France is very much karst. It is limestone, lots of limestone, which is really great for the soils that grow grapes, and it's also great because of drainage and things like that, because you know how the karst works, where it's made up of these carbonate rocks, in this case limestone, that allow for water to drain through, and so it creates sinkholes, and it creates all sorts of caves. And when water flows through these underground cave systems and bubbles up, or in this case gushes up through another opening in the karst geography, we get what we call a karst spring. And that is exactly the reason for the Fosse d'Yonne, which is in Tonnerre and is a spring, a karst spring, that releases 82 gallons, 311 liters, of water per second. So that's why I had to do that math in the beginning of the episode. The intro was 30 seconds times around 82 gallons a second. So, that's 2,400 gallons of water just for when I was talking in the beginning of this episode. And that's not even when there are lots of rains and floods. When that happens, the underground system that feeds this spring, and we'll talk about that in a second because we don't know a lot about it because it's enormous and because it has many sources, most of them unknown. Well, when this underground system fills up with water because of floods, it can be up to 3,000 liters per second. So that's 10 times as much water gushing out of the Fosse d'Yonne. Now, fosse in French means pit. And you could see where the story about the Saint Jean Réaume digging out the basilisk from the pit, or creating a pit with this digging, that's relates to the name. But also the Dian part, it's not really clear what the source is of this word, speaking of sources, and it could be a name that's related to the word divine in English, but it could also be, and this doesn't really get floated out there, just to use more water terms, but Yun is the name of the area around this, and the town of Yun is not far away. And it could always be the Fosse de Yun with a Y. I haven't seen that put out there, but there are older texts that call this the Fosse Yun. And then the de means of, so making it the Fosse de Yun might square away with the meaning of Dion, or it could be from the word divinus in Latin, which means divine. So either way, it's a mysterious spring, and so I think its name should be a little bit mysterious too. So that's only fitting. A famous local architect built a wash house around it so that people could do their washing in terms of clothes without polluting the spring, because they would do the wash in this kind of circular trough-like structure around the spring's main exit, and that would not run into the spring; it would just run down, and so it would not pollute the spring. That was the idea behind the ingenious design of this wash house, and it's now a historical monument. And you can see that on the thumbnail to today's episode. Now, the Fosse Dion is not just mysterious, it's also dangerous. Why is it mysterious? It's mysterious because no one has ever gotten to the source of it. And apparently in the 1970s, there was a study that did a dye test. And, when you put dye in water, you might know this on a small scale around it. Looking for a toilet leak, you put dye in the water and see where the dye comes out, or if it comes out, that kind of thing. That same thing for pipes and all sorts of things when you're testing for leaks. So in the 70s, a dye tracing study was done, and it was found that part of the source of the Fosse Dion is the Laigne River, which disappears into the karst geography. Remember, the thing about karst is that it is excellent at creating sinkholes, and because the limestone dissolves with over time with water, it's excellent at disappearing rivers for sure. And so there's a disappearing river called the Laigne, which disappears, get this, 27 miles, 43.5 kilometers away from the Fosse Dion. And that study, which I tried to actually find the study, which was done by the French government, I tried to find the study, and this is another mystery. That source has seemingly disappeared from the internet. So, but nonetheless, I couldn't find the source that talks about all of the dye tracing studies that were done, because I understand that there was another river that could possibly have been an additional source. But you get the point here. The reason why this is mysterious is because in this karstic geography, there's caverns everywhere. There's water sources that disappear and flow into sinkholes, and there's just water that comes into the earth that filtered through the limestone that just ends up collecting places. So we'll probably never know what all the sources of the Fosse Dion are, and maybe that's for the best. As for the bottom of the hole that it is, this is something that we also may never find. And this is where the danger part comes in. Several divers have lost their lives exploring the cave system that is the basically kind of underground river, for the lack of a better word, that feeds the spring. And that cave system has a point, maybe I think it's 37 meters down, where it narrows. And this is the famous part of it where it gets really narrow and you could kind of barely fit through. And that's in 1996 where there was another incident with fatalities. And after that, the town banned diving in the spring until the late 2010s, when the town gave its permission to a French diving team led by a very well-known French diver to explore the Fosse d'Yonne. What did they discover? Well, the leader of the dive team was able to travel, I think, 370 meters. So, we're talking about over 1,200 feet down and over. I say down because it's not like it goes straight down. There's a kind of that narrow part, and then the cave goes up and then goes back down again, and then it's not like just a pit that goes, even though the name is fosse, which means pit in French. It's not really a pit. It's like a snaking, kind of fitting for the basilisk story. It really does snake under the topography of the town of Tonnerre and further. So the diver got 370 meters long before he needed to turn back around. And he took some video of that. And so you can see some of that. I'll put that in the description so you can watch the special that was done. It's a feature on the BBC, which the kind of part of this that's I found really interesting is that in a local church, the way that they represent the basilisk with Saint-Jean-Réaume is as the person on the video describes it, a rooster and lizard combo. But the person on the video doesn't seem to mention that it has a kind of baby's head, like a small human head, which makes sense in terms of the artists who did this hundreds of years ago, because it's a basilisk, and basilisk, as I said, means little prince or little king, really. But that kind of makes sense why you'd put a human head on this. I can see why artists would do that, given the fact that it's the name is Little King or Little Prince, so it sounds like a human may be involved in some way in the identity of a basilisk, even though there aren't really any written accounts that have that being part of the basilisk's kind of composite monstrous form. So that was I found that really interesting. Okay, well, so the sources of the Fosse d'Yonne in full remain a mystery, and where it ends in terms of the caves in the bottom also remains a mystery, and that probably will for a long time. But maybe we can ask the cards to clarify some mysteries in our lives by seeing what advice they have for us today. So cards, are you ready? Yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles. Cards, tell us some things. Here we go. It's card 16. Turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. The guy who wrote Robert's Rules of Order, the rules by which most formal meetings are run in the United States, did so because he didn't know how to run a meeting at his church. So, find some area in which you know you are deficient and become proficient in it. It will be a source of flourishing and pride for you. And if it helps, try filling in this blank. I am really bad at blank. Say whatever comes to mind and make it a goal to get good at it. See you tomorrow on Life's Potluck Buffet.